On this episode of the Cover 4 podcast, Jeff and Nolan talk about Brock Purdy, the new 49ers quarterback who has been dealing of late. As well, we'll go back to another segment we've done in the past, buy or sell on current teams on the outside looking into the playoff scenario. Stick around for more. Welcome to the Cover 4 podcast. I'm Nolan, that's Jeff. Just the two of us. Obviously, no Bradshaw, no Luca this time around. They're busy, but that is A-okay with us because, we don't have to talk about the Falcons and don't have to talk. Well, we'll briefly talk about the Patriots, but I think in both of our regard, it'll be more so a little bit more negative than positive. But, Jeff, let's get started. Last night, Brock Purdy and the Niners dealing winners of, I believe it's 7 straight now. They've been on a roll, but it's mostly been the story of Brock Purdy. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo got injured. He might be back towards the end of the season, but do you need him? Brock Purdy, 7 total touchdowns, only 1 pick. 67% of his passes have been completed. Now, 204 yards per game. That's a lower number. But when you talk about the Kyle Shanahan system, and especially, the weapons in this offense, you don't really need the quarterback to do too much. But what I want to ask you, what you've seen from Purdy so far, do you think that kind of makes sense for the Niners just to keep going with this formula of sticking with him? Jimmy G, he's going to be banged up coming back, but even more so next year. Jimmy G's likely gone. You got Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. Does Purdy deserve a shot to start come 2023?
I think from what we've seen so far, obviously a very small sample size, I think Trey Lance has about the same sample size. He looks way better and way more competent generally than Trey Lance. Like, if we're just being honest about it, right? And then Jimmy G, obviously a much bigger sample size, and you never know what can happen with Purdy. But it's like, especially going into next season, why would you bring back Jimmy G when you got a guy who's arguably playing at least just as good as him for cheaper and for the next couple of years, and will probably get a little bit better. And in general, when we watch him, Nolan, I feel like we're seeing a guy who operates in the offense really efficiently, who is just calm, and nothing looks too big for him. Everything looks like he's been there, done it before. He does not look like a 7th round, last pick of the draft rookie quarterback in the draft. He looks really, really good. He looks better than arguably the last 2 classes of rookie quarterbacks, which is pretty crazy to say. So, I think you just stick with Brock Purdy. I think when you look at it, he's been managing the offense really well. And I don't know. We've seen Jimmy G ceiling in the playoffs. You're Kyle Shanahan. You're the 49ers. Take a chance, in the worst case scenarios, you're getting basically Jimmy G again, who can move a little bit better. If we're being honest, he can move kind of like Jimmy G before his big injury. And I think that would just be the way forward for them. Use Brock Purdy, who's been doing pretty well. He's actually in basically every analytical category since he's been playing, since he got that moment when Garoppolo went down. He's been the top 10 in the NFL in EPA and CPOE. So that is pretty good. I think that's as good a sign as any that you don't need to go back to Jimmy Garoppolo. And again, you have seen the ceiling with Jimmy G. So I think you try somebody else and take the shot, man, because one thing bounces a certain way in the NFL, you're in the Super Bowl. And I think with the talent on this team, you might as well see what you got with Purdy and go from there. I think that would be the best case of maximizing their ceiling and taking all the momentum they got and hopefully finally getting that elusive Super Bowl.
I don't disagree with you, Jeff. And I want to look up Brock Purdy's stats when he was in college, because the talk about when he was at Iowa State was, he was putting up solid numbers. And I do remember there were some analysts who had him as maybe the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in that class. And I think towards the end of the season, he started to fade quite a bit. So that was sort of a scare for some teams towards the end of his Iowa State career. But obviously he ends up going in the draft, and he's looked fine. And now there is some question marks here. I do think he moves better than Jimmy G, and I think in the pocket he's more awareness already, whereas Jimmy G looks scared whenever he faces pressure. We saw that a lot in the playoffs last year, especially that second half where Aaron Donald and the Rams just went on a rampage. But I'd like Kyle Shanahan to expand the offense a little bit more, because right now it looks like, it doesn't matter. This offense is fantastic no matter what. And it's almost like the easiest offense in general for a quarterback to look successful. The yards per attempt is lower at 7.3 yards per attempt than any year of Jimmy G's career in San Francisco. I think that's a little bit different, whereas San Fran's paying Jimmy G to make big plays, right? And paying him to have a little bit more outreach on the offense. Whereas I'd like to see Shanahan expanded more and get Purdy to fire some more shots downfield. And we saw that a little bit more last night against the Seahawks, where he found Kittle in some good spots here and there. Is it crazy enough to say, I'm trying to think of another way to put this. When the ball's in Brock Purdy's hands and he's trying to force a throw, I'm not shitting my pants as much as when Jimmy G has it. Whereas,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. I absolutely agree. I feel like you even saw it. The weird chat before the weird challenge that Pete Carroll had last night against the Seahawks. He had that scramble where he just slides, doesn't take the hit, gets the first down, and everything. He did everything right in that play against a good Seahawks defense. And yeah, okay, look, you're right about that. The air yards are very low, but having said that, you literally built this offense around your playmakers. So just get the ball in their hands. Who cares, right? Like, as long as you get the ball in their hands, the idea is that they should be able to get the yards after the catch with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I'm okay with you tossing, a slant and letting them try and get the first down that way every single time, because that is literally what you built this offense around, is for them to make most of the plays. And as long as Brock Purdy, like you said, doesn't make you shit your pants every time you need like a 3rd and 10 or something, then okay, why not, right? What do you have to lose, in my opinion, at that point?
They are such an interesting team, because when you look at the NFC, it's pretty much them, Eagles, Cowboys are the 3 best teams. And we kind of all know that. You look at the point differential, those are the only ones that are in the hundreds. Everybody else, except I believe the Lions, are in the negative point differential. So like, these are the 3 best teams. But when you look at next season, what did the Niners do? Because they went up and got Trey Lance because they saw this potential ceiling for him. But this is an offense where you don't need a quarterback to have this immense ceiling to carry you because of those playmakers you mentioned. So I am with you that I would stick right now. I would stick with Purdy for the rest of the season, which is another crazy scenario that it just happens to Jimmy G, where, he was playing decent football, gets hurt again, and now here comes a backup quarterback. It's the same. It's crazy to think it's the same scenario that happened years prior, when Alex Smith, playing good level of football, injured. Here comes this quarterback. We didn't really, obviously it's a different scenario where Kaepernick was a running quarterback and Purdy's kind of just playing efficiently. But it's the kind of the way this is going for this team that everyone, thinks can compete for a Super Bowl. So I'm with you. Purdy is the story right now, and I think he deserves a shot to start next year, because I think Jimmy G, they're not, I believe he's a free agent. They're not going to pay him that money, where it's going to be between him and Lance and whatever they see fits, which would be pretty crazy. Sticking in the NFC, so obviously Purdy's been a fantastic story. Geno Smith's been a great story as well. Seahawks have been struggling of late. I believe the Seahawks got off to a 6-3 start. Now they're 7-7, which gets us to our NFC buy or sell. So we're going to look at 4 teams here in the NFC, Jeff. You look at the wild card. Dallas is it. Dallas is going to make it no matter what. Like, I'd be stunned if somehow Dallas, loses all that. They need so much stuff to happen in order not to be in. But there's a few teams that there are some question marks. So we're going to look at Washington, the Giants, Seattle, who we just mentioned, and the Detroit Lions. And we're going to go through buy or sell of each team. So let's get started right now with the Washington Commanders. They do have a playoff spot as of right now. They're 7-5-1. The rest of their schedule, Jeff: Giants, Niners, Browns, Cowboys in Week 18, which could be a game where the Cowboys are resting their starters. Are you buying or selling the Washington Commanders into a playoff spot?
I'm selling. I can't see it, man. With the last couple of games you mentioned there, those are tough. Those are tough games. And even the Giants is a pivotal one, right? Because of them, having that playoff push. I think they win that game, but at the same time, like, the Browns, I think, will start to kind of come into their own, I think, at that point. with Deshaun Watson. And I think obviously that defense has been atrocious all year. It's still a bad team. It's still a winnable game for the Commanders. But then again, the Cowboys, there's a chance the Cowboys want to solidify a better spot in the playoffs too, potentially. I think that could be a scenario for them. So they're probably not going to want to give away that game necessarily. They might rest their starters. It's going to be tough to tell until that actually happens, but they're probably going to want a higher seed to avoid the getting the Eagles in the second round or something like that. So I think I just don't, as weak as this conference is, I don't see the Commanders making it in.
So out on the Commanders. Now the Giants are also 7-5-1. They obviously play this week, so that will solidify sort of who gets the lead. And obviously, the last game they faced off, they tied. But so the Giants get Washington, like I mentioned. Then the Vikings, Colts, and Eagles in a game. Eagles are obviously going to rest their starters. Are you buying or selling them?
That's also incredibly tough. I guess I'm selling them too because I only see one to well. Actually, no. I guess you know what? No, because they would have 2 wins, right? Yeah. No, you know what? I'll buy the Giants. I'll buy the Giants because I think they can probably get at least 2 of those games. I'm not confident in that at all. Like at all. I think the Giants are a terrible team, but I do think they can eke out a couple of those games there. The Colts, I think, is actually a very manageable win for them. I think if their defense plays up to their level, they can easily win that game. And then Daniel Jones just has to be at his best, which is impossible to know if he'll ever be at his best ever. But if he does, I think they can manage and they'll squeak into the playoffs and just be one and done. I think
it's interesting because with those 2 teams, it literally is like it's going to depend what happens on Sunday when they face off, because whoever wins that game, they get a fat lead right away, and then now it's kind of the percentages would go way heavier for the team that wins that one. But I think you're right with the Giants. The Colts is a manageable game, and I think there's more so a chance that the Eagles literally rest everybody for that one, whereas the Cowboys, it's going to depend on the way their schedule goes. So you're in on the Giants, you're out on the Commanders. Now it's between Seattle. Seattle's 7-7 right now. They've been struggling down the stretch here. They have Chiefs, Jets, Rams to finish.
Wow. Oh man, that is kind of especially because it really again because it's the end of the season, things get so tricky with how teams are going to rest. But obviously the Chiefs I don't think will be resting at that point. I think the Chiefs are going to try and solidify that number 1 spot and make sure they have some distance between them and whoever's going to be chasing them. I think they should be okay to do that. But I just do trust the Seahawks to get a few more wins. Gino obviously kind of crashed and burned a little bit. He hasn't been playing as well these last couple of weeks, but I have more than enough confidence to think that they'll eke out a few more wins. And I think out of all those teams, all the teams you mentioned so far, I have the most confidence in them to really get it done, in my opinion.
Okay, so you didn't seem like a whole hard buy on the Seahawks there, because is there a chance the Detroit Lions, who are 6-7 and finish of Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers, and they've been on a heater right now, obviously just beat my Vikings last week. Their offense has been efficient. Who do you trust more, the Seahawks or Lions, to get that last playoff spot?
Honestly, man, the Lions. It's crazy to think that, in 2022, that the Lions are a playoff team after what they've kind of been through. But Dan Campbell, like as much as you can kind of make jokes about him, and it too, is like as much as we kind of like meme him and everything, he is good, man. He's a good coach. I think it's pretty hard to deny that now, especially offensively, what he's doing with the Lions. The Lions offense is a threat in every single game to put up 30 plus points. And with Jared Goff, who also I think people have been way too hard on, in my opinion. Like, he's not bad. He's just not like great. He's probably not worth the second contract that he got. But like, okay, there's a lot of quarterbacks you can say that about. And I think the Lions are probably the best threat to beat all those teams. I mean, let's just be real about it. Chicago Bears, man. Chicago Bears suck. And I kind of hope they beat the Chicago Bears. I hope they beat, I really hope they do win. And you know what, too, as good as the Jets defense has been, I can also see them losing that game too, because I just don't trust the Jets offense that much. I trust the Lions offense. I trust them to get a few more points and win that game too. So I definitely trust the Lions to actually like get into the playoffs. I would not be shocked at all if they made it into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win. Well, actually, they could even win a game, honestly. I mean, they could genuinely win a game, but um I have a lot of confidence in this Lions team. I'm super impressed. They deserve all the praise, in my opinion, and I'm just happy for them, honestly, even them being rivals.
I'm with you. Like the Lions are a fun. Their offense is legit. Like they have the O line. You mentioned Jared Goff. He obviously, he doesn't deserve how much money he's getting, but that's going to be a question mark next year. Is he's played well enough where if he takes them to the playoffs, Detroit obviously has the Rams pick. That's going to be a top 5, top 6 pick. Do you take a quarterback for the future, or do you say, let's see what Jared Goff can do one more year? Let's get a guy who can help out our defense at that, top of the draft. It's interesting. I'm with you in the NFC. I'm going to buy the Lions. I just think that stretch of Jets, Panthers, Bears, Packers is very doable. The news came out today. Zach Wilson is starting this week for the Jets. Mike White already ruled out with a concussion. I believe that's the injury, but we already saw how bad the Jets offense was with Zach Wilson. Okay, I think that's already going to be a win there for the Lions, who brings them to 7-7 tied with Seattle. I'm personally out on Seattle. I like the story. I think they're a year away. They have the young pieces, but I think they're a year away from competing. I'll go vice versa with you on the NFC East teams, though. I'm going to buy Washington and sell on the Giants. That might change after this week, whoever wins that game, but I think we're in the same boat there, whereas both those teams aren't very good. I think of all those teams who are competing for a wild card spot, I would trust the Lions the most to, make it to the wild card and potentially eke out a victory.
For
All
sure.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, fully agree with that. But it's great. All of these teams are just so iffy. They're so tricky to figure out because they're all like literally right in the same spot. They're all middling teams, but they're all middling teams battling for a playoff spot. So it's a really interesting spot to be in.
Exactly. And we've seen each of these teams, pull out victories, which were really surprising, right? Washington ends up beating the undefeated Eagles. The Giants had beaten the Ravens earlier in the year. Detroit, obviously, they beat the Vikings, but their offense is cooking right now to a point where it's like you kind of have to trust them. But then Detroit, that offense, put up a stinker against the Patriots, right? So it's hard to trust all these teams, but it'll be an interesting stretch for the NFC. Let's hop to the AFC now. Now, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. The Miami Dolphins looked like they were the cream of the crop of the AFC. They had a lead in that East Division. It's dwindled down a little bit. In Miami, they're 8-5 right now. They have Bills, Packers, Patriots, and Jets. So they have 3 division games down the stretch here. Do you trust Miami? 8-5. Obviously, they got a little bit of a lead here on the other teams. Do you trust Miami to get in? Or are you buying or selling the Dolphins?
Oh man. I've been thinking about this all week, actually, Nolan. I've been really thinking about this all week because I love watching their offense. Mike McDaniel has done a great job. Love him as a coach. I really hope he sticks around because he's so funny, so entertaining, like even off the field. So, man, because I think this Bills game is a loss. I just think I think the defense is a little bit more healthy now, right? Obviously, Von Miller going out really sucks, but I think the defense is a little bit more healthy. I think they also know what to expect more with this team. And I think, defenses can adapt better that way, especially a really good defense like this. And I think, Josh Allen and the Bills offense will be better, especially without the heat. I think that's definitely a factor in this game. And I think it's actually going to be snowing in this game, which is a huge factor. So it's basically the whole thing's flipped. And I think that favors a guy with a big gun that can just throw it through the wind. No matter what the conditions. I'll go with the Bills in that one. And then the Patriots, man, like, oh gosh, like I don't think they're very good, but I do trust that defense, Bill Belichick, to figure something out to at least make it difficult for them. But gosh, I do. I can see. I can see Miami sneaking out a win there. I don't think I think they are better than what they're showing currently in the last couple of games. And then the Jets, it really depends who's in at quarterback, in my opinion. But I also don't think their defense is quite that level that I think that McDaniel won't be able to figure them out. So I'll say I'm buying the Miami Dolphins, but man, it's this is not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. I think they probably got the toughest stretch of any of these playoff contenders right now.
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I'm with you on the Dolphins. I just think that one game lead kind of helps them. And when it comes down to it, I think I trust their playmakers and their offense to squeak out some points. So I'm going to buy the Dolphins, but here's where it gets more interesting. You mentioned tough schedules. How about New England? 7-6 right now. Raiders, okay, whatever. Bengals, Dolphins, Bills down the stretch. Bills might not be starting those guys because they want the number one seed and want to avoid. They want the number one seed, right? And KC's going to be fighting for that number one seed as well. Patriots, buying or selling on them?
Yeah, Patriots. I mean, that's an easy one, Noel. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna sell them. Sorry, Luca. Sorry. I mean, I don't see it. I think Luca will be okay with that too because I don't think he thinks this team deserves a playoff spot if he would be honest right here right now. And I don't either. I don't think they deserve it. I think Mac Jones looks kind of like the dude we thought he was because like, okay, you're a pretty limited dude and your ceiling was basically your rookie year. And that's all we're going to see from him, unfortunately. But again, that defense always causes problems for people. Bill Belichick is just a genius. He's the best coach of all time. But I don't see them doing it, man. I don't see them doing it. And you're right. Like the Bills are going to want to make sure. I mean, again, too, it's not just the number one overall seed and they'll be 1-1 with the Dolphins, right? And the Dolphins are also going to be pushing. So I do think they're going to start, and I do think the Bills will win that game. So I don't see the Patriots winning. I think Bill Belichick misses the playoffs again.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think they'll, win against the Raiders because it's going to be Josh McDaniels against Belichick. I think Belichick's just going to cook them up. But that 3-game stretch is going to be really tough. So I'm selling the Patriots as well. Let's jump to the Chargers. Chargers, big victory against the Dolphins. Emmanuel Acho had to eat crow because he got flamed all over social media. But Chargers, Titans, Colts, Rams, Broncos down the stretch. Probably the easiest stretch we see of these games here. Titans have been really bad of late. Colts, we know what they are. The Rams, we know what they are. The Broncos, we know what they are. You buying or selling Justin Herbert and the Chargers?
I'll make this one quick. I'm buying the Chargers.
Okay.
I'm putting my faith into them. Don't jinx me. Don't jinx me, okay? Or don't jinx the Chargers, I guess, realistically, because they're the ones who have the most to lose here. The Chargers fans have been through it enough. And I think if you don't get through this stretch, something is seriously wrong. Just tear down the whole franchise, tear it down to the studs. And I mean that in every little sense. Sell the team, move it somewhere else, move it to London, England, okay? Just get it out of here because at this point, like, there's just no hope for this franchise. And we'll just resurrect a franchise where no like curses can be placed on them, in like 100 years or something. And then San Diego fans can get something back from this franchise that's done them so much emotional harm.
I'm with you, and I want to be all in and be like, yeah, they can do it, but then they have these games where it's
Makes no
ugly
sense.
to watch. But if they don't, I'm with you. Like if they don't pull out this stretch here, where I think all they realistically need is 2 wins, and they should get at least the last wild card spot. So you and I are both in on Miami and the Chargers. That means the Jets. We already said they're probably going to lose to the Lions. They finished Jags, Seahawks, Dolphins, kind of an easy stretch too. But if we're already buying Miami, we're already buying the Chargers. That would kind of mean Patriots and Jets are already out. Obviously, the other wild card team would be from the AFC North because whoever loses, or not loses, but whoever wins that division between the Bengals and Ravens already gets a playoff spot. The other one we already kind of see as owning the top spot in that wild card stretch. So how about that? The only thing I will say, the one team that we didn't mention, and I love it, the Jacksonville Jaguars. 5-8 right now. They wouldn't have a shot at the wild card necessarily. They're 5-8. The Titans are currently 7-6. But if the Jags, who finished with the Cowboys, call it a loss. Cowboys are a great team. So they lose to the Cowboys, but beat the Jets and beat the Texans, and the Titans, who have the Chargers, Texans, and Cowboys in a 3-game stretch, they could meet in a Week 18, win it in for Jacksonville, and tie or win for the Titans. to see who wins the AFC South. And I think there's a shot that the Jags could be making the playoffs, which would be a crazy scenario. But the way the Jags are playing, there's a shot. So I just want the listeners to keep an eye on the Jags, because if that stretch there comes down to week 18, I think I trust Trevor Lawrence and the Jags more than I trust Ryan Tannehill and Titans right now, which would be a crazy scenario. Jeff, before we go, if that comes down to week 18, are you riding with the Jags or are you riding with the Titans?
Only because that would be incredible and a great story. I will ride with the Jags, because like, I mean, and you went to, man, they look so improved. They look so good. And it just like, you kind of want some payoff for all the improvement they've had from the season to last, like just debacle of a season, just a catastrophe with Urban Meyer. And it would be kind of nice to not see the Titans in there. I'm not going to lie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired of the Titans, man. Like just winning this division so easily year after year and not really being that good. I think we've said this literally every single year on this podcast, Noel. Like the Titans just don't feel that good. Whereas the Jags, it's like, okay, you don't feel that great either, but like at least there's something there with you. At least it's fun. And also it'd be nice to see Trevor Lawrence in there, give that whole franchise some confidence, because, Jacksonville's also a place where it's just been abysmal for years. So, I think that'd be fun.
I love it. I love it. Duval County, let's ride. I'm with the Jags, potentially getting in there. That's going to do it for the Cover 4 podcast. That's Jeff. I'm Nolan. I'm sure we'll have Bradshaw and Luca next week, and obviously more playoff talk, and potentially talk about the college football playoff coming up soon as well. So check out that when that comes out. We'll see you guys soon.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Lingo Sports and Lingo News for a whole lot more just like this.